Hello friends, students and parents. Namaskar. Welcome to Careers360. In a nation as diverse as India, entrance exams are the gatekeepers to the dreams and aspirations of millions of students and a billion people. But are they truly fair? We impose an entrance exam on students to study further, to get into premier institutions, to get subsidized education, to get into jobs. But have we, in pursuit of objectivity and transparency, sacrificed equity and fairness? Are these exams inadvertently tilting the scales against girls, small-turn students, and those from the state boards? Join us as we unravel the hidden biases and systemic flaws that might be choking the aspirations of millions of students. This isn't just about numbers, it's about the dreams, the despair, and the fight for a fair shot at success. Prepare to challenge everything you thought you knew about India's entrance examinations. To understand whether the larger objective of an entrance examination is being fulfilled, we looked at NEET data. NEET is an examination that is conducted to take students into all the medical colleges in the country. Now, why did we take NEET data? There are two big reasons for that. First, I think we have access to most of the data thanks to the Supreme Court. And the second part of it is, which is very crucial, is that NEET is the only examination where every MBBS seat in the country is filled only through the marks that you secure in the examination. So to that extent, you have larger pool of data and you actually have a pathway of exactly understanding and analyzing where these students land up, and which is where we looked at NEET data. What does the overarching NEET data tell you? You actually had 23.33 lakh students taking the examination, of which about 10 lakh students, which is 43% are boys and 57% are girls. About 13.3 lakh students are girls. So you essentially in medical, if you now notice it, the 57% students who take the examination are girls and 43% are boys. These students took the examination in 38 states and union territories across 566 cities. Remember, this number is very important for you. 566 cities and about 4,750 centers, because in some cities you will have multiple centers. Now, when you look at this data, there is one thing that came out very clearly. And first, let me explain to you how the merit worked. About 2,400 students got 700 plus, which means that these guys have a chance of getting into a decent central institution, the Government of India institution, which includes AIMS kind of a thing, right? Then about 650 plus is a score where you get a rank of about 30,265. So 30,265 students who got 650 plus scores in the country. That is 1.3% of the total students who appeared. And 600 plus, where you actually have a chance to get into one of the private medical colleges, it's about 81,550. Now this, you remember this very clearly, right? Now, if you look at, you want to get into AIMS Delhi, the closing rank is 57, which means you need to be in the top to be there. But if you get down to AIMS Hyderabad, the closing rank is 2,811, which is the 700 plus kind of a score. You have a decent chance of getting into AIMS Hyderabad. Now, the second part of it is, I told you about the 650 plus score. Why is it important? Because that will help you get into any of the All India quota seats of the Government of India or any of the state medical colleges in the country, because there the closing rank is about 20,000 and 24,000. So essentially, if you get a score of 650 plus, you have a very good chance of getting into one of the public institutions in the country. And if you get 700 plus, you have a good chance of getting into a central institution of the country. Once you remember this, now we go to the real analysis that we are about to get into to understand whether the entrance examination system achieved its larger objective, right? The total number of cities, if you remember, I told you there are 566 cities where there are 4,750 centers. We grouped those 566 cities into two sets of groups. The first group being where there is an access to coaching, which means there is at least one coaching institution that is prevalent there or available there, and the other group which don't have access to coaching. How did we arrive at that? We looked at the top 25 coaching institutions in the country, went to their websites, understood where all they have test centers or coaching centers, and mapped them against these 566 cities. When we mapped that, it came to us something where we realized that about 231 of these cities have good coaching institutions or coaching institutions, and in 335 of these cities, there is no access to coaching at all. By the way, again, let me be clear, we did this whole thing by surveying 25 large coaching institutions in the country. The smaller coaching institutes, we still don't have access. We couldn't do that. But there's a large enough data for you to understand and seek direction out of this whole thing. So you have 231 cities where there is access to coaching, and you have 335 cities where there is lesser or no access to coaching. Now you look at how students who were in cities which have access to coaching versus where there is no access to coaching and how they performed. When you look at 700 plus score, only 9.5% from the 335 cities where there is no access to coaching could get that. And 90.5% students are from the 231 cities which have access to coaching. When you look at 650 plus score, only 13.4% students from the 335 cities could get through, whereas 86.6% students came from the 231 cities. And if you get down to private medical colleges, just 13% of the 335 cities got into a score of 600 plus, whereas 87% students are from the 231 cities. If you look at the top 15 states in the country, they actually got 28,057 students who got 650 plus score out of 720. Whereas the bottom 15 states just got 185. 93% of the students are from the top 15 states, but the bottom 15 states have just 0.6%. This should bother all of us, because it is not a crime to live in smaller states. It's not a crime to live in smaller cities. It's not a crime to live in smaller towns. From states, let us move to the cities. I told you about Sikar. Sikar, the average score of all the students who appeared for the examination, the average score, by the way, the qualification score is 162. The average score of all the students put together is 362. And of the 30,000 students and 566 cities, Sikar is one city, right? But 2,040 of the students got 650 plus, which is about 7% of the 30,000 students who got 650 plus. Right? Jaipur is 1,686. New Delhi is 1,327. Kota is 1,068. And the list goes on and on and on. What I'm trying to say is that in coaching hubs, where there is massive amount of coaching that is prevalent there, those cities are laying a lot of claim and taking away the chunk or the meat of the number of seats that are available through the entrance examination system. Let me explain to you through the other side of it, which is cities where there is no coaching at all or very less coaching. Narayanpur, Nandurbar, all this, the average score, remember Sikar I told you 362? In Narayanpur, the average score of all the students is just 77 out of 720. Nandurbar, it is just 96. Sukma is just 100. Now, if you look at like earlier I compared about states, if you look at the cities, the top 15 cities, and this is out of a total 566. Remember, I keep repeating 566. It's important for you to understand that. The top 15 cities got 11,207 students who got 650 plus. And the bottom 15 cities just had 13. And it is not a crime to be living in those cities. It is just that there is a problem in the way we conducted an entrance examination. If you look at the cities with least merit, the lowest of the 201 cities, only 21 students could achieve 650 plus. So of the 566, there are 201 cities where the number of students who got 650 plus score, which means they can get into a good public medical college, is just 21. Right. And now you look at the states and cities comparison. If you look at it, the top 30 cities have 15,370 and the bottom 30 cities have 60 students only getting 650 plus score. The top 15 states have 28,000 students who are getting 650 plus out of total 30,000. The bottom 15 states, remember, it's no longer, we're talking about states. There are 38 states and UTs in the country. 15 states, just 144 students got 650 plus score and can get into a decent medical college. And this should bother all of us. And this possibly happens because girls in the country are not allowed to go out of their hometowns to study in a coaching center, which is outside their hometown. So boys would be sent out to a Kota or a Sikar or a Hyderabad or a Vijayawada, right? But girls possibly are held back at their homes because they're not supposed to be going out, or there are restrictions that are placed, societal restrictions as you call it. Let me put together a data point for you. For NEET, as I told you, about 23.33 lakh students appeared for the examination, but 57% of them are girls. 57% are girls. But for JEE Main, the girls who take that examination is just 33% and 67% are male. What we looked at is, because we now know that 57% of the students are girls when it comes to taking the NEET examination. We try to understand how is the success rate of them as compared to boys, right? In Andhra Pradesh, I told you 57%, remember? In Andhra Pradesh, 68% students who took the NEET examination are girls. In Karnataka, 61% are girls. In Maharashtra, 57% are girls. In Telangana, 72% of the students who appeared for NEET examination are girls. But the moment you come down to a coaching hub, say Rajasthan, this reverses. 54% are boys and just 46% are girls, right? Once we know the number of students who are taking the examination, let us look at what is the success rate of these people. Mind you, earlier also I said, one is students moving from one state to another state, which is a coaching hub because they want to succeed. And two is the students moving from within the state to a coaching hub within the state, or where there is a coaching center, but not in the same city, but outside the city, so that they can crack the examination or they have a greater chance of success in the examination. So what we did was, we took about 5 states and tried to understand what is the success rate of these students based on the gender. In Andhra Pradesh, in 2023, you actually had about 42,835 students who qualified for the examination, right? But the number of students who got 650 plus is 1.13% for male and just 0.42% for females, for girls. In Telangana, the ratio was 0.79% success rate for boys versus 0.32% for girls. In Gujarat, it's 2.49% for boys and 0.8% for girls. Overall, in Rajasthan, 7.31% for boys. Of course, this is a coaching hub, so it will behave differently. But when you look at it across the board, the chances that a boy succeeds in any entrance examination, looking at it through the prism of NEET examination, is about 2 to 2.5 to 3 times. And this for me is very, very worrying. Now let's go to the next one, which is, sometime back, IIT Kanpur in 2018, they came out with a report. Since NTA came in, by the way, the transparency of data has been very, very minimal. But in 2018, IIT Kanpur, which conducted the JEE advanced examination, put out a report. From that data, there is a very, very good information that's come out. In that year, 11% schools are from CBSE board and state and other boards was 89%. But when you look at the number of seats that were taken by students who are studying in CBSE board, that's 59%. And the number of seats taken by students studying in state boards was just 41%. This again is shocking, which means that there is a very clear bias for students who are preparing or studying at a CBSE board. Because 11% schools, but they get 59% seats, and 89% schools, but they get only 41% seats. But it is to be expected, because when CBSE, the papers are set in NTA sitting in Delhi, where they only understand the CBSE and NCERT syllabus, it is bound to happen that a certain syllabus, a certain curriculum is more preferred, and the test papers that are set are biased or influenced against the state board students. And not just that, remember, most of the state board schools are government schools operated by the states there. Whereas the CBSE, if you were to remove the Kendriya Vidyalayas, most of them are privately owned. Which means access to coaching, affordability of coaching also is not a question mark. So what you have from the CBSE data is simple, that we actually have about 11% schools claiming 59 to 60% seats in engineering also at IITs and NITs, whereas 89% students studying in schools are just getting 41% of the seats. This should be worrying all of us. So there is very clearly, if you ask me today at this point in time, there is a very, very clear bias for places where there is access to coaching. About 335 cities in this country don't have access to coaching, and those students are not getting more than 10-12% seats, whereas the students who are studying in about the other 235 cities, which have access to coaching, are getting about 85 to 90% of the seats. And this is not just creating a geographical divide in the country, because 15 states don't have not more than 13-14 students getting any medical seat, and you have 30,000 students of 30,000 we are talking about. And it is also driven up further where the gender biases also are coming through, because those students who can are mobile enough and can go and travel and study in places, which is boys, are getting very, very unfair advantage, because they are actually having a success rate of 2.5 times more than what the girls are. And for me, I'm very, very clear that it doesn't mean that the 15 state students are bad or these girls are bad. It is just that they're not better prepared as compared to the boys. When we look at the data that we presented till now, what we can conclude are a few things. Entrance examinations are biased against people living in small cities, small towns, and small states. Entrance exams are biased against the girl child because the girls cannot have equal access to coaching, or they don't travel out of their comfort zone to have access to coaching. Entrance exams possibly are also biased against people who cannot afford coaching. Now, coaching institutions, to their credit, have made sure that the students who go through their system are better prepared in concepts and learning, so that they can, if they don't crack the primary thing, which is IITs and medical exam, MBBS and all, they can go to the next level and still come out stronger. But it still doesn't justify what is happening. Either we should have equal access to coaching across the cities, or we should ensure that the schools are preparing the students to crack the exams also, because it is their primary responsibility to ensure that the child succeeds in his life and career. For us, as we look at it as Careers360, when we look at this data, I just feel that in a country where dreams are built on education, does our entrance examination system serve as a gateway or a gatekeeper? This is a question that we must address. Are we truly fostering merit, or are we perpetuating a cycle of privilege where only the coach, the affluent, and the well-connected thrive? Does the system designed for greater transparency strip away equity, pushing the underprivileged further to the margins? Is it fair that your future hinges not on talent or hard work, but on access to the right coaching and schools? It's time we question whether exams are selecting the best or simply the best prepared or the best coach. Thank you so much. Namaskar.